Go home. There's no room left. That's what my mother said when she opened the door, looked me dead in the eyes, then shut it again without hesitation. I stood there frozen on the porch of my grandmother's house, holding a tin of cookies in one hand and my son's tiny hand in the other. My 6-year-old Eli looked up at me with confusion in his big brown eyes. His voice trembled. "Mommy, did we do something wrong?" That single question shattered me. "Hi, my name is Claire Matthews. I'm 37 years old, a self-taught baker from Asheville, North Carolina. I run a small online cookie shop from home and raise my son Eli on my own. My husband passed away 4 years ago in a car accident. Since then, it's just been the two of us, me and my little boy against the world. That night, Christmas night of all nights, I thought we were walking into a family celebration. Instead, we were turned away like strangers. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my grandmother, furious. Her voice on the other end of the line said something that left me speechless. "Come back, right now." What happened after we returned stunned everyone in that house, especially my parents and my brother. Let me tell you how it all unfolded. I hadn't spoken to my parents much over the past year. Truth be told, the relationship had always been strained. Growing up, I was the oldest child and the only daughter. But in our home, being a girl meant being expected to smile, serve, and step aside. My younger brother Ryan was the golden child. He could do no wrong. Every time he made a mistake, my parents made excuses. Every time I succeeded, it was brushed off like it didn't matter. After I lost my husband, I needed support. But my parents barely called. They were too busy praising Ryan for his corporate promotions or posting pictures of their grandson Zachary all over Facebook. Zachary, Ryan's son, was the apple of their eye. Eli barely an afterthought. Still, I always made sure Eli knew he was loved. I read him bedtime stories. I sat with him when he was sick. I taught him how to measure flour and sugar when we baked cookies together. Our life wasn't easy, but it was filled with love. Then came the invitation from my grandmother, Grandma Ruth. She was 82 years old, full of fire, still sharp as ever. She was the only person in the family who had ever made me feel truly seen. She'd call just to check on me, send Eli birthday cards with handwritten notes. She never played favorites. When she called and asked us to come to the family Christmas dinner, I hesitated, but I didn't say no. "Grandma, are you sure?" "Of course I'm sure. I want you and Eli here. Don't worry about anything else." So we prepared. Eli spent 3 nights making her a Christmas card by hand. He cut out green paper in the shape of a tree glued on tiny stars, and in wobbly red crayon letters wrote, "I love you, Grandma Ruth. Merry Christmas." He was proud of that card, kept it in his backpack like it was treasure. On Christmas morning, we woke up early. I baked a fresh batch of cinnamon sugar cookies. Eli helped, standing on a stool by the counter, giggling as he sprinkled too many sugar crystals on top. It felt like the start of a perfect day. By 4:30, we were dressed and ready. I wore a red wool coat. Eli had on a tiny bow tie, something he insisted on wearing because, in his words, Grandma Ruth is a queen. We got in the car and drove through the snowy hills of Asheville toward Grandma's house. The roads were slow. There had been an accident that backed up traffic. We arrived about 40 minutes later than planned. I texted Grandma earlier to let her know, but she hadn't replied. I figured she was busy. When we pulled up to the house, everything looked beautiful. Lights wrapped around the porch railings. Music faintly played from inside. The windows glowed warmly, and laughter echoed through the walls. I took Eli's hand, adjusted my coat, and walked up the snowy steps. We rang the doorbell. A few seconds passed. Then the door cracked open. It was my mother, Pamela. She peeked out, her expression cold and disapproving. Her lipstick was perfect, her hair curled tightly. She looked me up and down, then glanced at Eli without a word. "Go home. There's no room left." At first I thought she was joking, that maybe this was some kind of messed up family humor. But then she started to shut the door. "Wait, Mom. Grandma invited us. We texted. She cut me off, her voice sharper this time. She said if anyone came late, send them away, no exceptions." And then the door shut, right in my son's face. Eli looked up at me confused. He clutched the card tighter in his little hand. "Why did Grandma Ruth say we can't come?" I didn't know how to answer, I didn't want to lie, but I couldn't explain why a family would choose to hurt a child like that. So I just whispered, "I don't think Grandma knows, sweetheart." And we turned back to the car, our footprints the only ones in the fresh snow. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Grandma Ruth. Her voice was trembling, not from cold, but from rage. "Where are you, Claire?" That's when everything changed. Let me take you back a little. Before that Christmas night shattered, what little trust I had left in my parents' life had been quiet and simple, at least on the outside. I live with my son Eli in a 2-bedroom bungalow just outside Asheville, North Carolina. It's a cozy home nestled near the Blue Ridge Mountains, surrounded by pine trees and hummingbirds in the summer. Nothing fancy, but it's ours. After my husband James passed away in a car accident 4 years ago, everything changed. We had been married for 8 years. He was kind, funny, and endlessly supportive. Losing him wasn't just about grief, it was like losing half of myself. I remember the morning after his funeral, waking up to Eli crying in the next room asking where Daddy went. That was the moment I knew I had to pull myself together for him. With no college degree and no savings to lean on, I turned to the only thing I was good at baking. I started small, just cookies and brownies sold to neighbors. Then I opened an Etsy store. Slowly orders came in. I'd stay up past midnight filling Christmas tins, wedding favors, and baby shower boxes. I wasn't making 6 figures, but I could keep the lights on, pay rent, and keep food on the table. I built a reputation locally, too. There's a bookstore cafe in town that buys my snickerdoodles in bulk. There's a church group that places a monthly order of lemon bars. And on Saturdays, I sell at the farmer's market with Eli beside me, wearing an apron 2 sizes too big, greeting people like a little mayor. He's my reason for everything. Eli's 6 now. He's the kind of boy who gives his lunch away if someone else forgets theirs, the kind who makes paper flowers for his teacher's birthday. He's sensitive, bright, and so full of love, sometimes it hurts. But I've always known that he doesn't quite understand why our family feels different. He notices how rarely his grandparents call. How every time we're at family events, the spotlight is always on his cousin Zachary Ryan's son. He asks why Grandma Pamela only posts pictures of Zachary online, or why Zachary always gets the front seat at parties while Eli ends up in the corner. He asks those questions with innocent curiosity, but I see the pain hiding behind them. It's not that Eli is jealous, he's too pure for that, but he feels it the difference in how he's treated. And I feel it too, like a sharp edge that never dulls no matter how many times I pretend it doesn't matter. There were moments I tried to speak up. I remember one Thanksgiving when I gently told my mom, "Maybe you could include Eli in more of your pictures." She smiled tight and said, "Well, Zachary's just more photogenic." That was the end of that. Still, I always held on to one constant, Grandma Ruth. She was the only person in the family who ever truly made me feel welcome. When I was little, she'd sneak me chocolate chip cookies when I got scolded. As a teen, she helped me sew my prom dress. And as an adult, especially after James died, she was the only one who called regularly, just to ask how I was coping. So when she invited us to Christmas this year, I took it seriously. I wanted to believe her words were genuine. That maybe, just maybe, things were finally shifting. I told Eli Grandma Ruth wants us there. She even asked if you could bake something special with me. His eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. Does that mean she likes my cookies? She loves them, baby. And she loves you. That's what I believed. Until that night when the front door closed in our faces, and everything I thought I knew was flipped upside down. Looking back, I realized I had ignored 1,000 signs. Growing up, I was the one who stayed out of trouble. I got good grades, helped with chores, and watched after Ryan when our parents were out. I wasn't loud. I didn't complain. I did what I was told. Ryan, on the other hand, was the hurricane. He broke windows with baseballs, skipped homework, and once crashed Dad's truck into a mailbox. But he was charming. He had that easy grin and smooth way of talking that adults loved. He could mess up and make it sound like a sweet misunderstanding. Mom would say, "Oh, boys will be boys. Claire, go clean the kitchen." Even when we became adults, the favoritism didn't stop. Ryan dropped out of college after 2 semesters, but Dad helped him get into real estate. When he landed his first big sale, they threw him a barbecue party. When I finished my baking certification at a community center, Mom said, "That's nice. At least you'll always have something to fall back on." I never said anything. I didn't want to sound bitter or ungrateful, but the message was clear in their eyes. Ryan was the pride of the family, and I was the backup plan. Then came the kids. When Zachary was born, Mom and Dad flew out to Charlotte to help Ryan and his wife for 2 whole weeks. They sent gifts, diapers, toys, posted baby photos daily with captions like, "Our sweet miracle." When Eli was born 2 years later, Mom visited for 2 hours. She brought a small gift bag, baby socks, and a rattle. That was it. At first, I tried to brush it off. Maybe they were just tired. Maybe they didn't want to drive. But the pattern kept repeating. Every holiday, every birthday, every gathering, Zachary was front and center. My parents would fawn over him, call him our little genius, and completely ignore Eli's drawings, his stories, even his presents. One time when Eli was 4, he made a finger-painted card for my mom's birthday. He was so proud of it. When he handed it to her, she barely looked at it and said, "That's sweet, honey." Then she turned and started bragging about how Zachary could count to 100. Eli stood there holding the card, slowly lowering his hand. It broke me. I began pulling away. I stopped attending family events unless Grandma Ruth personally invited me. And even then, I kept my guard up. But Grandma noticed. One day she called and said, "Claire, I see everything you know. You're not crazy. And you're not wrong to feel hurt." She told me stories of her own childhood, how her mother had favored her younger brother, how she'd had to fight just to be seen. She reminded me that silence wasn't always strength. Still, I tried to keep peace, for Eli's sake. But things hit a breaking point last spring. It was Grandma Ruth's 82nd birthday. A big garden party was planned at her house with food, music, and a small ceremony. I baked her favorite pecan pie and arrived early to help her set the tables. Eli wore his little suspenders and brought a bouquet of flowers. He picked himself from a neighbor's yard. He couldn't wait to give them to her. But the moment we walked in, Mom pulled me aside. "Claire, I need you to sit at the kids' table with Eli. We need the main seats for the rest of the family." I blinked. The rest of the family, Zachary and Ryan's in-laws. There was no place for me at the big table. No seat for Eli either. We ended up eating in the corner on a fold-out bench. I didn't want to make a scene, but something in me cracked. After the party, I asked Mom plainly and calmly why we were excluded. She shrugged. Ryan's family came all the way from Charlotte. We had to make space. That was the night I stopped calling her. Grandma called me a week later. She was furious. She said if I had known, I would have flipped the table myself. I didn't raise her to treat people like that. I believed her. But that's when I started wondering, who was really in charge at these family events, Grandma or my mother? Over the next few months, I stayed distant. I sent Grandma letters and photos of Eli through the mail. We baked cookies and mailed them to her, carefully wrapped and tied with ribbon. She'd call afterward and say they tasted better than anything from the store. I never heard a word from my parents, not even on Eli's birthday. But as Christmas approached, Grandma called again. "Claire, this year's dinner is different," she said. "I want you and Eli there. Promise me you'll come." I hesitated. "Grandma, are you sure you know how it usually goes?" She sighed. "Claire, I'm still alive. I can still make decisions. If anyone has a problem with that, they can leave." Her words gave me a strange mix of hope and fear. I told her we'd be there, and I meant it. Because no matter how badly I'd been treated, no matter how often I had been overlooked, I still wanted Eli to have a real family Christmas. I still wanted to believe there was space for us, at least in my grandmother's heart. So when we got that tin of cookies ready, when Eli folded his little Christmas card and slipped it in my purse, when we bundled up and drove through snow just to reach that house, I truly believed something had changed. I thought we were finally welcome. I was wrong. It was a Thursday afternoon when Grandma Ruth called. The sky outside was the color of smoke clouds swollen with winter snow. I had just pulled a tray of peanut butter cookies from the oven when the phone rang. I wiped my hands on a towel and picked up, already smiling, when I saw her name. Claire, sweetheart. Her voice came through warm and familiar. How are you and my little Eli? We talked for a few minutes, nothing urgent, just updates. I told her Eli was excited about the snow and that we'd been working on a batch of cookies he wanted to name Snow Buttons. She laughed and asked him to save her a dozen. Then her tone changed just slightly. Listen, honey, I want to talk to you about Christmas Eve. I froze. My hand still holding the towel gripped it tighter. This year I'm hosting it again. At my place. The whole family will be there. Ryan, his wife Zachary, your parents, everyone. But I want you and Eli here too. There was a long pause before I could respond. Grandma, I thank you. I mean it. I really do. But are you sure that's a good idea? I knew she'd understand what I was really asking. It wasn't about the food or the seating. It was about the tension, the wounds, the fear of walking into a room full of smiles that felt like daggers. She sighed. I know what's happened, Claire. I know how they've treated you. I've been quiet too long and I regret that. But this year, things will be different. I want you there because you belong there. You and Eli are part of this family, and I won't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Her words pressed against something fragile inside me. For a moment, I let myself believe her. I asked, Are you sure they won't make a scene? She chuckled. If they do, they'll answer to me. That's a promise. I promised her we would come. That night, while I was folding laundry, I told Eli we were going to Grandma Ruth's for Christmas Eve. His face lit up like someone had turned on 1,000 lights behind his eyes. Really? He asked, his voice almost a whisper. Really? Can I give her my card? I made it already. He ran to his room and came back with a green folded paper shaped like a Christmas tree. On the front, he had drawn Grandma Ruth in red crayon, smiling, wearing a crown. On the bottom, he'd written, To Grandma Ruth from Eli. I love you more than cookies. I smiled through a lump in my throat. Of course, baby. She's going to love it. He spent the rest of the evening adding glitter glue and little stickers to it. Then he helped me make a batch of cinnamon sugar cookies, his favorite. We packed them carefully in a red tin box, tying it with twine and a tiny pine cone decoration. Are you excited? I asked him as I tucked him in later. He nodded. Do you think Grandma Ruth will let me sit next to her? I'm sure she will, I whispered. But even as I said it, my stomach turned. I didn't want to show my doubt, but it lingered cold and persistent. I had seen too many Christmases where we were placed on the sidelines, where our presence felt more like a burden than a joy. Still, I had made a promise, and part of me wanted so badly to believe this time would be different, that Grandma Ruth truly meant what she said, that we wouldn't be pushed aside, that Eli would be embraced, not just tolerated. I spent the next few days preparing. I bought Eli a new sweater green with tiny snowflakes and wrapped a small gift for Grandma Ruth, a wooden recipe box I'd painted by hand. Everything was ready. Eli couldn't stop talking about the card. He held it like it was gold. He made me promise 3 times that we wouldn't forget it. We won't, I told him. It was the first time in a long time I'd seen him that excited to be part of the family, and I prayed quietly to no one in particular that he wouldn't be disappointed again. The snow had started to fall by late afternoon on Christmas Eve. Thick flakes drifted slowly from the sky, blanketing Asheville in a soft white hush. It was the kind of evening that made the world feel gentle and magical, like everything had slowed down just enough to matter. Inside our little home, Eli was practically glowing. He wore his new green sweater, the one with white snowflakes and tiny red buttons. His hair was brushed. His boots were clean, and he cradled his handmade card for Grandma Ruth with both hands, like it was a treasure chest. You look handsome, I told him, adjusting his scarf. He beamed. Do you think Grandma Ruth will like the cookies? She's going to love them, I said. And you. By 5 o'clock, the car was packed with the cookie tin, the card, and our coats. The roads were slick, and traffic was slower than usual because of an earlier fender bender on the main highway. Still, we were on our way a few minutes behind, but hopeful. Eli chatted the whole ride, asking questions about who would be there, whether Zachary would share his toys, and if Grandma Ruth would let him help serve dessert. I nodded, smiled, answered gently. but my heart was beating a little faster than normal. The closer we got to Grandma Ruth's house, the more my hands tightened on the steering wheel. We arrived just before 6:30. The neighborhood looked like something out of a postcard, snow-covered roofs, Christmas lights twinkling, the scent of wood smoke drifting through the air. When we turned onto our street, I spotted my parents' car and Ryan's black SUV parked in the driveway. Other relatives' vehicles lined the curb. Everyone was already inside. I parked 2 houses down and helped Eli out of the car. He carried the card and cookie tin carefully, his cheeks pink from the cold. As we approached the familiar white house with green shutters, I could hear laughter inside, the faint sound of Bing Crosby singing White Christmas and the clinking of silverware and plates. My breath fogged in the air. I hesitated for a second before pressing the doorbell. Eli looked up at me smiling. "This is going to be the best Christmas ever, Mommy." I wanted so badly for him to be right. The door opened within seconds. It wasn't Grandma Ruth. It was my mother, Pamela. She stood there in the doorway dressed in a velvet wine-colored sweater with a snowflake brooch pinned neatly over her heart. Her blonde hair was curled and sprayed into place, and her makeup was perfect. But her eyes, the look in her eyes froze me. She looked down at me, then at Eli, her lips pressed into a thin, unimpressed line. Before I could say anything, she spoke. "Go home. There's no room left." The words hit like ice water. I blinked, sure I had misheard. "What?" She sighed, visibly irritated. "You're late." We had to adjust everything. There are no more seats, no space. Just go. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Eli, who had been smiling just moments before, looked up in confusion. "But I made a card for Grandma Ruth." He held it up, his mittened hands trembling slightly. My mother's eyes flicked to the card, then back to me, unchanged. "Grandma said she invited us." I said, my voice shaking. "She told me herself." My mother narrowed her eyes. "She said if anyone came late, especially you, to send you away. No exceptions." Then she stepped back and closed the door, just like that. No goodbye, no apology, no warmth. I stood there staring at the painted wood door, unable to move. Eli was silent. He didn't cry. He just stood there, still holding the card, staring down at it like he didn't understand what had just happened. After a long moment, he looked up at me. "Mommy, did we do something bad?" My throat closed. "No, baby. We didn't do anything wrong." "Then why didn't she let us in?" I didn't have an answer. I knelt beside him and brushed a snowflake from his eyelashes. His cheeks were red and wet, not from tears, just the cold, but his eyes were filled with something heavier than sadness, disbelief. He had done everything right, dressed up, made a card, baked cookies, been excited, and still they shut the door. "Let's go," I whispered. I picked him up, holding him close against me, the cookie tin clutched under one arm. We walked slowly back down the steps, my boots crunching in the snow. I didn't look back. In the car, Eli finally spoke again. "Is Grandma Ruth mad at me?" "No, baby. She doesn't even know." He nodded slowly, but the sparkle in his eyes was gone. I buckled him in, closed the door, and sat in the driver's seat in stunned silence. I couldn't cry. I couldn't even think straight. I just stared ahead at the glowing windows of my grandmother's house, filled with light warmth and the sounds of a party we were no longer welcome at. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. It was ringing. The screen lit up Grandma Ruth. I stared at it, frozen. I didn't want to answer. Not because I didn't love her, but because I didn't know what had just happened, or who I could trust anymore. The phone kept ringing. I stared at the screen, hand hovering just above it. A part of me didn't want to answer, not because I didn't love Grandma Ruth, but because I was afraid of what I might hear. What if my mother was telling the truth? What if Grandma really had said to send us away? The thought twisted my stomach, but then Eli said quietly from the back seat, still holding his card in his lap, "Maybe Grandma Ruth didn't know she hurt my feelings." That broke me. I took a breath and picked up the call. "Grandma Claire!" Her voice came through, laced with worry. "Where are you? Everyone's already here. We were waiting for you." My throat went dry. "Grandma!" "We came. We were at the door. But Mom, she told us to go home. She said there wasn't any room left, that you told her if we came late we shouldn't come in. There was a pause on the line just a second or two, but it felt like an eternity. Then Grandma Ruth's voice sharp and furious. What? She didn't even try to hide it. The kindness in her tone was gone, replaced with steel. Claire, I never said anything like that. I told her to save you two a seat at the table. I made your favorite casserole, and the living room has a whole setup just for Eli. I've been waiting for you both. My chest tightened. So, she lied. Grandma took a deep breath, her voice trembling, but not from age. I want you to come back. Right now. Grandma, I don't know. I don't want to make a scene. I don't want Eli to see more of this. Then her tone changed. It was a voice I hadn't heard from her before. Not soft, not gentle. Firm. Commanding. Come back, Claire. Bring Eli. I'll handle the rest. I hesitated. Grandma, I don't want to walk back in there if no one wants us. That's not true. I want you here. This is still my house. And if anyone in that living room has a problem with that, they can walk out. The certainty in her voice startled me. Okay, I whispered. We'll come back. Beside me, Eli looked up. Are we going to see Grandma Ruth? Yes, sweetheart, we're going back. He smiled, a little smaller than earlier, but it was still a smile. Then let's hurry, Mommy. I want to give her the card before dessert. I turned the car around and drove slowly back toward the house we had just been rejected from. The snow was still falling, the same lights still glowing in the windows. But this time I didn't feel invisible. This time I felt like someone saw us. When we pulled up again, something strange happened. The front door was open. Grandma Ruth was standing outside her coat, buttoned up to her chin, her silver hair pinned back, cheeks flushed from the cold. But she wasn't alone. Behind her, standing on the porch, were almost a dozen relatives, cousins, aunts, uncles, and my parents. Even Ryan was there, arms crossed, his wife looking away. They were all outside, waiting. I parked the car and stepped out, my legs stiff from tension. I opened Eli's door and helped him out. He clutched the card again, his fingers already starting to turn pink from the cold. As we walked up the steps, Ryan shook his head. Seriously, Grandma, we're all out here freezing because of Claire. I opened my mouth to respond, but I didn't have to. Grandma Ruth raised her hand sharply. Ryan, not another word. He went quiet immediately. Then she turned toward my mother. Pamela, would you care to explain what you said to my granddaughter when she arrived earlier? My mother didn't speak. Her face was pale, her jaw tight. I asked you a question, Ruth repeated louder this time. I want to hear it from your own mouth. Mom opened her lips, closed them again. She glanced around, realizing all eyes were on her. Still, she said nothing. Then Grandma turned to the side porch where her longtime neighbor Bruce stood holding a tablet. Bruce, can you play back the front camera footage? He nodded. I had forgotten Grandma Ruth had security cameras installed last year. Bruce, who helped her set it up, had access to the feed. He tapped a few buttons and turned the screen toward the crowd. There we were, me standing on the porch bundled up holding Eli's hand. And then came my mother's voice, cold and sharp, echoing through the speaker. Go home. There's no room left. Then the follow-up. If you came late, I was told to send you away. Those were Grandma's instructions. The lie rang out through the snowy air like a slap. A few gasps followed. One of my aunts murmured, "Oh my God." Eli gripped my hand tighter. I glanced at my mother. Her face had drained of all color. Her lips were pressed together like she wanted to vanish. The silence was deafening. Then Grandma Ruth, her voice quiet but full of finality, said, You lied. You turned my granddaughter and great-grandson away on Christmas Eve. You used my name to do it. My mother stammered. I was just trying to keep things organized. I thought, no, Ruth snapped. You thought wrong. And you crossed a line that I won't let go. No one said a word. Then Grandma turned to me. Claire, come inside. You and Eli are where you belong. As soon as we stepped inside, the warmth from the fireplace wrapped around us like a blanket. The room was glowing with golden light from candles and twinkle lights strung across the ceiling. A tall Christmas tree sparkled in the corner, its ornaments reflecting the firelight. But the air was thick, too thick with something else. Tension, Silence. Everyone followed us in from the porch slowly, carefully, like they were afraid of stepping into something sacred. The cousins, who usually dominated every conversation, hovered by the hallway. Ryan and his wife stood off to the side near the dining room. My father kept his arms folded and stared at the floor. And my mother, she didn't speak. She looked like a statue made of glass, one wrong word away from shattering. Grandma Ruth didn't speak at first either. She waited until everyone was inside the door closed and the room fully still. Then, standing in the center of the living room, she raised her chin and said in a voice I hadn't heard since I was a child, "Before we eat, there is something that needs to be said, something that cannot go ignored." No one moved. No one dared. She turned to my mother first. "Pamela, I trusted you. I gave you the responsibility of helping me host this gathering. I believed that you, as my daughter, would do so with kindness and fairness. Instead, you used your position to humiliate your own child. And worse, you lied about me to do it." My mother finally found her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to humiliate anyone. I just thought they were too late. It was chaotic." "You made a choice?" Grandma interrupted. "A choice to exclude, a choice to shame, a choice to protect appearances over people. You looked your own daughter in the eye and sent her and her child away in the snow." A few relatives shifted uncomfortably. Then she turned to the rest of the room. "And the rest of you? You stood by. You watched Claire and Eli be ignored year after year. You never said a word when they were left out. You allowed this cruelty to fester because it didn't affect you." She turned to Ryan. "Especially you." Ryan looked up, startled. "What?" "You knew how Claire was treated. You knew how your parents favored you, dismissed her, erased Eli. You saw it all and you said nothing." "I didn't do anything," Ryan muttered. "Exactly," Grandma said. "You did nothing, and doing nothing in the face of injustice is not neutral. It's cowardice." He opened his mouth again, but Grandma raised her hand. "I'm not interested in excuses." She turned back to the center of the room, then gestured toward me. "Claire didn't ask for special treatment. She didn't come here to take anything. She came because I invited her, because I wanted her here, because she belongs here as much as any of you, no more, because she shows up, because she takes care of me, because when I'm sick, she brings me soup, because when she's struggling, she never complains, because she raised a son with more kindness in his pinky finger than most of this room has shown in a lifetime." I didn't know I was crying until I felt Eli's hand squeeze mine. He was standing tall, holding his card tightly against his chest, listening to every word. Grandma continued, "This family has been broken for a long time. I let too many things slide. I made excuses for people I loved. I let silence speak where I should have raised my voice. That ends tonight." She turned back to my parents. "From this moment forward, I no longer recognize you, Pamela, as my daughter. And you, Gerald," she said to my father, "have stood by and enabled this behavior for years. You are no better." My father blinked, stunned. He tried to speak, but she cut him off. "You will no longer benefit from my estate. You will vacate the Lakewood property within 30 days. What that house belongs to me, and I'm reclaiming it. The paperwork is already in motion. Christian, my attorney, will handle the transfer." "You can't do this," my mother whispered. "I can. And I am." Her words rang with finality. The room erupted. One aunt gasped audibly. Another whispered, "Oh my God, she's serious." A cousin covered her mouth. My mother sank into a chair, trembling. My father clenched his jaw fists, bawled, but said nothing. Ryan looked back and forth between them and me, disbelief in his face. "But what about me?" he asked, finally, voice rising. "You're cutting me out too?" Grandma's gaze turned cold. "You allowed this. You benefited from it. You raised your son to believe he was more important than Eli. And you stood by every single time Claire was pushed aside. But I didn't say anything." "Exactly. Silence is a choice." Ryan's wife tugged on his arm, quietly whispering, "Let's just go. This is done." But he was still looking at me. "Are you happy now?" he snapped. "You ruined this family." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Grandma did it for me. No, she said. This family was already broken. Claire just survived it. Then she turned to me. Claire, I'm sorry it took me this long to speak up, but I'm proud of you. And I love you. I swallowed back a sob. I love you too, Grandma. She looked at Eli and smiled. Now, I believe someone has a card to give me. Eli stepped forward shyly and held it up. I made it myself, Grandma Ruth. She knelt down slowly and took the card with both hands like it was made of gold. It's beautiful, she whispered, and I'm going to frame it and hang it right next to the mantel. He grinned, eyes sparkling again. And I made cookies too. Then let's eat. With that, the room finally breathed again. The ones who stayed did so quietly. Some tried to recover with small talk, others with awkward smiles. But the atmosphere had shifted. For once, the silence was clean, not heavy with secrets, but clear and necessary. Justice had been spoken, and the table was finally set right. After the confrontation, the evening moved forward, but nothing felt quite the same. The decorations still sparkled, the music still played. The food on the table was still warm and carefully arranged, but the usual buzz of laughter and conversation had dimmed to a hum. There were no more polite lies being told, no fake smiles. The performance was over. Some relatives quietly left after dinner, uncomfortable with the weight of what they'd just witnessed. Others stayed almost out of reverence for Grandma Ruth's words. No one dared challenge her again. As for Eli, he was glowing. He sat beside Grandma Ruth the entire evening, proudly pointing out the different cookies he had helped make. She offered him the first slice of pie, let him place the star on top of the Christmas tree, and told every single guest that he had made her favorite card of all time. It was the first time I'd ever seen my son treated as someone cherished, not just tolerated. And the look on his face, the relief, the joy, the sense of belonging was something I would never forget. After the dishes were cleared and the guests had left, Grandma asked us to stay the night. Snow was still falling soft and steady, and it just felt right. She tucked Eli into the guest bedroom, told him a bedtime story about a brave little fox who outsmarted a room full of wolves and kissed his forehead goodnight. Then she and I sat alone in the kitchen, drinking warm cider in quiet companionship. Claire, she said softly, I meant every word tonight. I know. I should have done it sooner. I saw it all happening. The favoritism, the cruelty. I convinced myself it wasn't my place to intervene. You did tonight, I said. That's what matters. She nodded. And tomorrow it becomes official. She pulled out a folder from the drawer beside her. Inside were documents already signed. The Lakewood house where my parents had been living was being reclaimed. The second property, a cottage in the mountains she had originally promised to Ryan, was being transferred to me. I blinked, stunned. Grandma, you don't have to do this. She cut me off. Yes, I do. I've watched too many good people go unrecognized, too many women told to be quiet, too many mothers pushed aside. This is me setting things right. I touched her hand, speechless. Use the rental income for Eli's future, she said. Or for yourself. Take a vacation, build a bigger kitchen. You've earned that freedom. And what about them? I asked quietly. She didn't need clarification. They'll be fine. Your parents made their choices. They'll have to live with them. She took a long breath. You and Eli are my legacy now, and I'm proud of that. The next morning, her attorney, Mr. Benton, came by to finalize everything. He was calm, professional, and kind, already familiar with the family dynamics. The papers were signed by noon. By New Year's Day, my parents had received formal eviction notice. 30 days to vacate. Ryan didn't reach out again. Neither did anyone else from that side of the family. But I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel like I'd won anything. I just felt free. Free from constantly trying to earn approval that was never mine to begin with. Free from the weight of pretending that everything was okay when it wasn't. Free to raise my son in a home where he would always be chosen. Not for show, not for appearances, but simply because he was loved. A full year has passed since that unforgettable Christmas night. Sometimes it feels like a dream. Other times it feels like it happened just yesterday. The snow, the door closing, the truth being laid bare in front of everyone. the pain of being turned away, the healing that followed. So much has changed since then. We still live in the same cozy bungalow on the edge of Asheville. Eli's room is a little messier these days, filled with Lego castles and superhero capes. He's 7 now, but his heart is still as soft and open as ever. His drawings have improved, his lines are steadier, his colors more vibrant, but he still draws Grandma Ruth with a crown. She turned 83 this fall. Her steps are slower, her hair even whiter, but her eyes are as sharp as they've ever been. We visit her every Sunday without fail. Eli helps her bake or sweep the porch, while I fold laundry or bring her groceries. She insists we stay for lunch, even if it's just peanut butter sandwiches. "You're not guests," she says. "This is your home, too." And it feels like that now. After the inheritance transfer was finalized, we chose not to move into either of the properties she gave us. The Lakewood house, once occupied by my parents, held too many heavy memories. So I hired a contractor to repaint repair and quietly rented out to a young family who'd been struggling to find housing. Watching another mother build her own fresh start there gave it new purpose. The mountain cottage, the one Grandma had originally promised Ryan, took more time. It had been neglected, leaky roof, old plumbing, cracked windows. I poured months into renovating it, using the funds wisely, not for luxury, but for something better. I turned it into a small family retreat, a quiet place where we could escape for weekends, roast marshmallows, and breathe. But the biggest change, the one I never saw coming, we're about to become a family of 3. Last spring, after years of reflection and quiet longing, I began the process of IVF. It was a deeply personal decision, one I kept private even from Grandma Ruth until the second trimester. I knew I wanted Eli to have a sibling, not because I felt incomplete, but because love doesn't stop growing when your heart has healed. It expands. Now I'm 8 months pregnant. It's a girl. Eli kisses my belly every morning and tells the baby, "I'm going to teach you how to draw cats and how to bake cookies." He already made her a card, crayon hearts and stick figures, and keeps it in his sock drawer until she arrives. At night, I sit with him on the couch, his head in my lap, our little dog curled at our feet. Sometimes we don't even talk. We just sit feeling safe and quiet. That kind of peace is new to me. I didn't grow up with it, but now I protect it like treasure. Grandma Ruth says the baby will have her stubborn streak. I tell her I hope she has her strength. We talk often about that night, Christmas Eve, the turning point. Not in bitterness, but in clarity. We both know it wasn't just one night. It was the breaking of a cycle, a long overdue shift. My parents now live in a rented apartment in another state. I haven't heard from them. I don't expect to. And as hard as that reality once felt, I've come to accept it. There's a kind of freedom in letting go of people who never truly saw you. Blood may connect us, but it doesn't define our worth. My family is here in Eli's laughter, in my daughter's fluttering kicks, in Grandma's wrinkled hands, folding pie dough beside mine. This is what healing looks like. Not loud, not flashy, but real and lasting. I'm sharing this story now not because I want sympathy or applause or even justice. I'm sharing it because I know I'm not alone. Some of you reading this have stood outside doors that were meant to be open to you. Some of you have sat at the edge of family tables, wondering why love has to be earned, while others are given it so freely. Some of you, like me, have spent years being the quiet one, the good one, the forgotten one. Here's what I've learned. You don't have to keep knocking on a door that's never been meant to open for you. You don't have to prove yourself to people who never made space for your heart. And you definitely don't have to raise your children in the shadow of someone else's neglect. Family is not defined by who shares your blood. It's defined by who shares your burdens, your joy, and your growth. Yes, I lost my parents in the process of protecting my son. Yes, I lost a brother who chose silence over integrity. But I gained something far more valuable: peace and truth, and the knowledge that I didn't stay silent when it mattered most. I protected my son from a lifetime of wondering why he wasn't enough, and I showed him that love should never come with conditions. If you're in a place where you're afraid to set boundaries with people who share your last name, I want you to know this. You are not selfish. You are not dramatic. You are not wrong. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to rewrite your story. You are allowed to walk away from anything that does not honor the love you give. Sometimes doing what's right doesn't feel good at first. It feels lonely, uncertain, even painful. But healing begins where pretending ends. And if no one has told you lately, you deserve a seat at the table, even if you have to build that table yourself.